Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, Chapter 4, and Text 23. Without further ado, we'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Radhadhyana Ranjana Yashodanandana Radhadhyana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Giridhari Gopi Janavalabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Astottara Satashishi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Astottara Satashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavin Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय मायापुर धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्त बिंद की जय Nitai Gaur Feminande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namo Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Bhakti Narayana Namaskritya Narom Chevam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gujirayat Nasta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamastuki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter 4, text 23. Ute marabi ya ima puro vibu, ilmaya site yad amusu purusha. Punkte gunan soda shatmaka, solang krishishta, Bhagavan vacham sime. Ute mahadbir ya ima puro vibu, Nirmaya shite yad amushu purusha. Punkte gunan shodasha maka. Solan Kristista Bhagavan Vacham Simi. Ute Mahatbir Ya Ima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamushu Purusha. Punkte Gunan Sodashatmaka. Solan Kristista Bhagavan Vacham Simi. Hare Krishna. Anyone who wants to can unmute themselves and chant also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Ute
Krishna.
Mahabhiya Imapura Vibhur Nirmaya Sete Yan Amusu Purusha Bhunte Gunan Sodasatmaka Solang Krishna Bhagavan Vajam Sime. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
भूतेर्महाभिर्य इमा पुरो विभुर्निर्मायसेते यदमुषु पुरुषः भुक्ते गुणान् षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्क्राष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, so we'll do word for word. Bhute by the elements. Mahadbi of material creation. Ya, he who. Ima, all these. Pura, bodies. Vibhu of the Lord. Nirmaya, for being set up. Shete, lie down. Yat Amushu, one who incarnated. Purusha, Lord Vishnu. Punkte, causes to be subjected. Gunan, the three modes of nature. Shodasa, in 16 divisions. Shodasa Atmaka, being the generator of these 16. Sa, he. Alankrishista, may decorate. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Vachamsi, statements. May, mind. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusha incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material bodies, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As a fully dependent devotee, Shukadeva Goswami, unlike a mundane man who is proud of his own capability, invokes the pleasure of the personality of Godhead so that his statements may be successful and be appreciated by the hearers. The devotee always thinks himself as instrument for anything successfully carried out, and he declines to take credit for anything done by himself. The godless atheist wants to take all credit for activities, not knowing that even a blade of grass cannot move without the sanction of the Supreme Spirit, the personality of Godhead. Shukadeva Goswami therefore wants to move by the direction of the Supreme Lord, who inspired Brahma to speak the Vedic wisdom. The truths described in the Vedic literatures are not theories of mundane imagination, nor are they fictitious as the less intelligent class of men sometimes think. The Vedic truths are all perfect descriptions of the factual truth, without any mistake or illusion. Now, Shukadeva Goswami wants to present the truths of creation not as a metaphysical theory or philosophical speculation, but as the actual facts and figures of the subject, since he would be dictated to by the Lord exactly in the same manner as Brahmaji was inspired. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, the Lord is himself the father of the Vedanta knowledge, and it is he only who knows the factual purport of the Vedanta philosophy. So there is no greater truth than the principles of religion mentioned in the Vedas. Such Vedic knowledge or religion is disseminated by authorities like Shukadeva Goswami because he is a humble devotional servitor of the Lord who has no desire to become a self-appointed interpreter without authority. That is the way of explaining the Vedic knowledge, technically known as the Parampara system or descending process. The intelligent man can see without mistake that any material creation, whether one's own body or fruit or flower, can not beautifully grow up without a spiritual touch. The greatest intelligent man of the world or the greatest man of science can present everything very beautifully only insofar as the spirit life is there, or in so much as the spiritual touch is there. Therefore, the source of all truth is the Supreme Spirit and not gross matter, as wrongly conceived by the gross materialist. We get information from the Vedic literatures that the Lord himself first entered the vacuum of the material universe, and thus all things gradually developed one after another. Similarly, the Lord is situated as localized Paramatma in every individual being. Hence, everything is done by him very beautifully. The 16 principal creative elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, sky, and the 11 sense organs, first developed from the Lord himself and were thereby shared by the living entities. Thus, the material elements were created for the enjoyment of the living entities. The beautiful arrangement behind all material manifestations is therefore made possible by the energy of the of the Lord, and the individual living entity can only pray to the Lord to understand it properly. Since the Lord is a supreme entity, different from Shukadeva Goswami, the prayer can be offered to him. The Lord helps the living entity to enjoy material creation, but he is aloof from such false enjoyment. Shukadeva prays for the mercy of the Lord, not only for being helped personally in presenting the truth, but also for helping others to whom he would like to speak. Oma Gyanati Virandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Dina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Vidati Swam Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pucharini Nirveshesha Sunyavari Pastyathyadi Shatayani Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gurate Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. The English translation again. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivened the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe, and who in his Purusha incarnation causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes, which are his generator, be pleased to decorate my statements. So this is a wonderful text, again by Shukadeva Goswami, appealing to the Lord in prayer before starting the answer to the question posed by Maharaj Pariksit. The question is about the Lord's creative energy. Maharaj Pariksit wanted to know more about that. And it's not surprising, sometimes the pure devotees of the Lord, they wonder about the Lord's energies, and sometimes they want information about them. Markandeya Rishi also wanted to know more about the Lord's energy, material energy, and the pastime about him. He was subjected to quite a bit of challenges to the physical body, because so many palaya, as we call it, different things like hurricanes and things of that nature set in also. Before he saw the Lord, later he saw a baby sucking his toe. It was on a leaf. That was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because when he approached the Lord like that, he got sucked in to the body of the Lord. And then that's when he saw the material creation in its fullness. That's what he wanted to see. So Markandeya Rishi also requested, and the Lord showed him. This time, Maharaj Pariksit is asking about the creative energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Shukadeva Goswami. Shuka is a parrot in the spiritual world. He is the pet of Srimati Radharani, who now came here. And maybe I'll take a couple of minutes to tell the story about how it became Shukadeva Goswami. So the way it goes, the pastimes of the Lord. So Shuka was with Krishna. Here means this material on the earth. Shuka was a parrot, and Krishna was feeding the parrot. And every time you give something and the parrot takes it, Shuka takes it, then he chants, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Actually, let me just take it back. It wasn't Krishna, it was Radharani at that time. Let me get my story straight. So it was Radharani that was feeding her pet, Shuka. And so she feeds and she says, Shuka takes a bite and she says, Hare Krishna. Because, of course, Radharani is always thinking about Krishna. Now, if you know parrots would try to repeat what's been said, but in the same tone that they've heard it. So Shuka was saying Hare Krishna in the same voice or copying the voice of Srimati Radharani. And so Srimati Radharani would give some nuts, Shuka would take it, Srimati Radharani says, Hare Krishna. Then Shuka says, Hare Krishna, same tone like that. Later on, Shuka flew to a place where Krishna was at, perched on the tree close to Krishna. And then he started saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, same tone that Radharani had said Hare Krishna to him. And so that really intrigued Krishna. Krishna looked up to, oh, Shuka is there, then saying Hare Krishna like that. Lesson for all of us to learn. The Hare Krishna mantra should be on our lips practically all of the time. He chanted Hare Krishna. Not long after that, Srimati Radharani and Krishna told Shuka that they would be going back to the spiritual world. Shuka wanted to come with them. They told him, no, you stay. He's a male parrot, by the way. Stay and also hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's Radha and Krishna that put the idea at the back of the mind of Shuka to connect with Srimad Bhagavatam, the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Radha Krishna left. Shuka flew to where Lord Shiva was. And Lord Shiva was with his wife Parvati, Parvati was sitting on his lap. So she wasn't facing Shiva. In other words, she was just sitting like that. Her back was to Shiva. And Shiva was actually reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So Shuka just perched on a tree close to where they were so that he could hear also. Same thing. The instruction given by Radha and Krishna here, Bhagavatam. Lesson we learn when the spiritual master tells us to do things, we should do. Senior devotee, authorities, they also tell us they are serving Krishna. When they say something, we do it. It's all in service to the Lord. So Shuka was listening. First canto, second canto, third canto. Lord Shiva is continuing. And through all of that, first, second, and third canto, at some point, Lord Shiva will pause and ask Parvati, do you understand? And Parvati will respond, yes, yes, very nice. Yes, yes, very nice. So, Lord Shiva will continue. Oh, you got the third canto. You understand? Yes, yes, very nice. And Lord Shiva continued. Now, Parvati was quite comfortable sitting on Lord Shiva's lap. And within a short while, he fell asleep. She fell asleep, but her back was to Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva had not noticed, because Lord Shiva could not see the face, the way Parvati was sitting. Lord Shiva had not noticed that Parvati had actually snoozed off, sleeping. So he continued fourth canto, fifth canto, and of course, he would keep asking. In the meantime, Shuka's listening. And Lord Shiva would ask, do you understand? Guess what happened? Shuka wanted to hear, and so Shuka imitated Parvati's voice and said, yes, yes, very nice. Yes, yes, very nice. Lord Shiva actually had closed his eyes when he was in his meditation and recited, but he wasn't sleeping. Parvati was. Shiva continues, Srimad Bhagavatam, and he went on and on and on and on, and Shuka led him on and on and on and on. They get to the 10th canto, Parvati wakes up. And then he says, my Lord, I'm sorry. I somehow dozed off. So I haven't really understood a good chunk of what you said. Lord Shiva says, but you kept saying, yes, yes, very nice. Like the beginning. Parvati said, I didn't. No, it wasn't me. So then Lord Shiva looked around, and there he was, perched on the tree, and the parrot was there, Shuka was there, and Lord Shiva immediately understood what had happened. So Lord Shiva, is to control the mode of ignorance. He got annoyed with Shuka and took a trident and went after Shuka, intent on harming Shuka. But Shuka is a bird. So what did he do? He flew away. Lord Shiva gave chase. And they came to the Himalayas area. Lord Shiva in hot pursuit. So in Vyasadev's kutir, he was also there with his wife. And he was also reciting Bhagavatam to the hearing and pleasure of his wife. Shuka gets through the door, and immediately, of course, this, the spiritual world, they have this mystic city. That's nothing to them. Shuka made himself very small and went through the mouth of Vyasadev's wife and got inside Vyasadev's wife. Not long after that, Lord Shiva shows up. And he asked Vyasadev, did you see a parrot come through here? The parrot come through here? And he was quite angry. And so Vyasadeva looked at him and said, what's the matter? And Lord Shiva related what had happened, how Shuka, this parrot, had deceived him by saying, yes, yes, very nice, when in fact he was speaking Bhagavatam to Parvati, and Parvati had taken a nap. So then, Shuka had deceived him, Lord Shiva, and that's why he was mad at Shuka. Then Vyasadeva asked him, so Shuka was listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam? Then Lord Shiva said, yes. Then Vyasadeva asked him, but if somebody hears the Srimad Bhagavatam, doesn't that person get purified? Lord Shiva says, yes. Then he says, well, if Shuka is getting pure, why you want to kill him? Lord Shiva did not answer that question. He turned around and he left. And this is how Ranat Maharaj told the story as far as I can remember. So then the situation was ended as far as Lord Shiva. He went back and Vyasadeva was preaching to his wife, Srimad Bhagavatam anyway. So Vyasadeva continued. And now Shuka was inside Vyasadeva's wife and was hearing Bhagavatam. As we well know, when the baby is born and the fetus comes to a point where the brain cells are out there, they can actually hear what the mother is speaking. So for Shuka, being such a pure devotee and from the spiritual world, that's nothing to him. So he heard the whole Bhagavatam. This time he had heard quite a bit of it from Lord Shiva. So he heard the rest from Vyasadeva. And of course, Vyasadeva was talking about how the material energy is such a struggle. And we know we have evidence of that. We go through disease, and we go through old age, we go through all kinds of struggles. And so that's why the time came for Vyasadeva, Shuka to be born, and he didn't want to be born. Actually, he stayed in the womb for a good 16 years. That's another part of the story. We won't get to that part of it anyway. He finally did come out and then made his way according to Krishna's arrangement to the bank of the Ganga to where Maharaj Pariksit was, and he had been cursed to die in 7 days. So then he repeated what he knew about Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Pariksit, and this is where we are talking about. Now Maharaj Pariksit wanted to know the creative energy. So the Sukadeva Goswami is saying, may the personality of Godhead, who enlivens the materially created bodies of the elements by lying down within the universe. Now, remember, the question that had been asked about him, asked to him by Maharaj Pariksit, had to do with the creative energy of the Lord. So it had to do with the universe, the material universe. So then he starts by talking about Mahavishnu lying down within the universe, and the pores, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, when Mahavishnu lies down, he also is lying down, and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu also lies down. There's even more about the two Vishnus that relates to Brahma, but that would be for another time. So, in this Purusha incarnation, it causes the living being to be subjected to the 16 divisions of material modes. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that the Lord enters the vacuum of the material world, and as he desires, then things come to be. So we can, from what we know, relate this to the Mahatattva, because that's where the universes come from, but it's actually through Karanodakshaya Vishnu. But where Sukadeva Goswami is talking about, he says he's lying down within the universe, so he's referring to the next incarnation, the next expansion, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Now, everything that is created in the material energy comes from the Lord Vishnu. And Srila Prabhupada says that a devotee, this is the right consciousness for a devotee, should think of himself as just an instrument for carrying out anything. When it's carried out and it's successful, he never takes credit for that thing that is done. Srila Prabhupada mentions it in the purport, but he himself is an example of that. He says that in the purport to refer to Sukadeva Goswami, but Srila Prabhupada himself is an example of when he came to Boston and he saw Boston Commonwealth Pier, which is the harbor where the boats actually come to, to land, and come to finally, that's the terminal for it, for lack of a better word. The pier is the terminal for the boats. And when he saw what was going on, you get our Commonwealth Pier, because I've actually lived in Boston for about 9 years before I moved to Maryland and then to Pennsylvania. That place is downtown. This is downtown Boston. So the skyscrapers are there. People are busy during the day, doing all kinds of things, and more the passion and more the ignorance, as we know in the cities. So he was praying and he says, I don't know how they're going to take the scriptures, the word of the scriptures. These people are so steeped in the material modes. So you have brought me here. So make me a puppet. Like a puppet, make me dance. Make me dance. Dear Lord, make me dance. So he had already in that prayer said that I'm not going to take credit for anything. If somebody in the prayer says that make me a puppet, the puppet is not responsible for what happens. It's the puppeteer that directs the puppet so that things seem to be happening by the puppet. But actually, it is not. But it's through what is created, what is moved around in the body of the puppet. Usually, the puppet you have strings, and the puppeteer intelligently pulls the string, and then the puppet just moves based on the string that's pulled and let down or up and so on, as the puppeteer wants. And so Srila Prabhupada compares the devotee's thinking to the atheist thinking. Atheist thinks that everything is done by me. If I did it and it became successful, that was me that did it. To the godless, they don't give credit to anyone. They give it to themselves. But Srila Prabhupada says, as it is in the Bhagavad Gita, that not a blade of grass, not even a blade of grass, can move without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the lesson for us also is that whatever happens in our lives, we should never give credit to ourselves. We should give credit to Guru, because he's our guide appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to guide us in this material world, and to Lord Gauranga, through whom we have become a devotee or devotees. We cannot understand Krishna. It's not possible to understand Krishna without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. This is stated clearly by Srila Prabhupada. In another lecture, he was talking about that. It was through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. What did Lord Chaitanya do? Well, two things. He taught us the chanting of the holy name. And we connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. That was through Lord Chaitanya. So it is Lord Chaitanya that's made it possible for us to connect with the divine couple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Lord Chaitanya gets credit for everything that we know as a devotee. Krishna taught Arjuna in the Battle of Kurukshetra, but Lord Chaitanya is also Krishna, the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he was in Jagannath Puri and taking the darshan of Lord Jagannath, it's like he was taking the darshan of himself, because like Lord Jagannath is also Supreme Personality of Godhead. In different experiences, in different pastimes, the Lord appears in a certain way. And so Shukadeva Goswami, Srila Prabhupada says, wants to move by the direction of the Supreme Lord. He does not want to answer questions based on his own thinking, but he wants to use his intelligence, true enough, but connected to the wisdom coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada also mentioned to his disciples, that's how we heard about it, that in his purpose, the purpose that he wrote were actually dictated by Krishna. Srila Prabhupada told his disciples, Sinalila Mita, Srila Prabhupada Sinamita. So everything that we do, even if we use our hands and our legs and so on to do it, they should still, the things that we do, the credit should be given to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you might say, well, I did it with my hands. True enough. That's the way you look at it. But that's the way a non-devotee should look at it. A devotee should understand that that hand that they're using is not theirs. It belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mm-hmm. So we have just basically been given a chance to use this body, including all the parts of the body, but we don't own it. And Sri Prabhupada's proof for that is the Lord makes it possible. The soul, which gives consciousness, makes it possible for the body to do different things. But the soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So that's one way to look at it. And also, since the super soul makes things happen or not based on the supervision and the permission, Anumanta Upadrishta, that's what he does. Supervise and also permit. If he decides that your hand is not going to move and the hand gets paralyzed, what can you do with the hand then? You can say it's still yours, but you can't use it. And so that's the proof Srila Prabhupada is saying that everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Shukadeva Goswami did not want to take credit for anything, even though he was going to answer the question. But his thinking and his prayer was saying clearly, dear Krishna or dear Lord Vishnu, you who lie on the Garb ocean, didn't say it like that, but that's the ocean, the Garbadak ocean, Garbadak Vishnu. For the universe, basically guide me through this. So I'm basically paraphrasing how he put it. So a blade of grass cannot move without a sanction of the Supreme Spirit, the Paramatma. So we also, everything we do, we should remember Krishna. And the easiest way to remember Krishna is just chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna. Even if you don't chant the whole thing, just saying Hare Krishna. Or keep listening to bhajans, kirtans, all chanting the holy name of the Lord so that our minds are on it. And in the things that we're doing, we're all giving the credit, even the material things. Krishna is the source of both material and spiritual. So we should never think that something is coming from us. It is, in fact, from the Lord through us. And that's how things get done. The less intelligent, Prabhupada calls them, the less intelligent class of men think that they do things by themselves. So we should never be caught in that situation. It is actually said in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27. Sri Prabhupada quotes it a lot. Pakite kriyamanani gunai karmi sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kataham itimanyate. The direct translation is that the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of the false ego, thinks himself to be the doer of activities, but they are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. Everything that is done by the human being is in one of those three modes, or a combination of the modes of nature. You act nicely, you're in a mode of goodness. You act going after material things, you're in a mode of passion. You act opposite the way things should be in a mode of ignorance. And sometimes things are done when the combination of goodness, passion, or passion, ignorance, or goodness, it's hardly goodness and ignorance, but passion and ignorance, or goodness, but with some taint, material goodness. There is Sudasattva, pure goodness, and that's where we're supposed to be. Now, it comes from chanting, it comes from hearing, and it comes from being convinced that we should only go after the material energy as is necessary. Don't take any more. This Upanishad also talks about that. Whatever has been given to us, we should be satisfied with, but not go after somebody else's what's given to them. Mm. So one of the things is we are not supposed to go after the meat, the flesh of a cow. That's not for us. So those who are doing that, eating meat, they're already in violation of what needs to be done. So Hila Prabhupada explains that there are two persons who's given this picture, one working in Krishna consciousness and the other one in material consciousness. They may be appearing on the outside, externally, they may be doing the same thing. Like in the Battle of Kurukshetra, Duryodhana was throwing arrows, Arjuna was throwing arrows, but the consciousness was different. Duryodhana was doing for his own false ego, wanted to win the war, so that he would be the next king and emperor. King based in Hastinapur, an emperor of the world. That's what he wanted. Krishna wanted Yudhishthira to be the king. And so Yudhishthira's brothers, especially Arjuna, who was with Krishna at the time, Krishna was the charioteer, he was shooting arrows, but he was shooting arrows based on what Krishna had directed him to do. He wasn't fighting for himself or for his own aggrandizement or from whatever he could get as being a king or the Pandavas being kings. He fought because Krishna wanted him to. And Krishna was on the side of dharma. So that is also a rule for us. We should always be on the side of dharma, goodness, religiosity, goodness. And the one that we involved in is Sanatan Dharma. And it's been simplified by the mercy of spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Very, very much simplified. And if we take advantage of it, then we have opportunity to go back to Godhead. So materialistic people, they have no knowledge that ultimately they are under the control of Krishna. So many things happen. We've even heard about it in the news. These people that are vying for a position as president of the United States, a lot of things that's going on. I will not get into that because politics is just such a turn-off now. But this is Kali Yuga politics. Who wants to know about Kali Yuga politics? But still, the Lord is in control of everything that happens. So it's been an eye-opener for some people, the whole assassination attempt and how it happened. Of course, the person that doesn't believe in God says, oh, he was just lucky. And those who believe in God says, oh, there is a God indeed. So little by little, there's some people who are beginning to believe in the power of Krishna. But we're fortunate not only to understand Krishna, but do Krishna's business too. Bhakti Yoga. So it is on us not to only be involved in Bhakti Yoga, but also teach others to come to Bhakti Yoga. That Krishna wants very much. If the bulk of people remain ignorant, they'll go down to hell. Because all they'll do is sense gratification, material sense gratification, and they'll go to hell. But when the devotees guide the person who is ready to hear higher knowledge, then that person is doing such a great job for Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master will be pleased, Krishna will be pleased. So that is something that we should always be looking to do. Sometimes it's just a question of giving prasadam, a snack, but offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you give to someone, you help their consciousness. They will, in fact, take to Krishna consciousness, even if at the time they're not listening. They will take to Krishna consciousness at another time. Lokanath Swami, His Holiness Lokanath Swami explained that sometime back, way back in the 90s at Washington, D.C. Says, you just give the prasadam, and the prasadam will do its work. When they eat it, it will in fact affect them because that's the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, ignorant people don't know that Krishna is the master of the senses. He's called Rishikesh. So, they use their senses for a long time and sense gratification year in, year out. and therefore they are bewildered by the false ego, and that makes them forget the eternal relationship with Krishna. This is how Sri Prabhupada ended the purport. But it tells us that since there are so many people who are forgetting the eternal relationship, they've just literally forgotten, and that's the state that they're in now. And so if we help them, then we're doing the greatest welfare work. The greatest welfare work is not to open hospitals and those kind of things for the physical body. When we help the soul to wake up to the reality and connect with Krishna consciousness, every soul that is awakened like that, that is the greatest welfare work. And that's we should have at our minds so that we use our intelligence in prayer, and then use the senses, as it was mentioned earlier, the 16 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether are the great elements. And then, of course, there are the working senses. There's the hands, leg, mouth, rectum, genitals, and the knowledge acquiring senses, the eyes, the nose, the ear, the tongue, and the skin. So those are 15, but they mentioned 16. So the 16th sense is the mind. Use all of those. What's available to us in the atmosphere, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and what we ourselves have, hands, legs, mouth, and so on, and the knowledge acquiring senses, all of it, just like Maharaj Ambarish did. So our eyes should see objects related to Krishna, nose to smell the tulsi leaves and also flowers during Arati time that's offered to Krishna, the ears hearing the sound of the bhajans and the kirtans by the holy name, the tongue speaking Krishna consciousness and tasting Krishna prasadam, like that. So that way, then we are employing all our senses in the service of the Lord. And so in that way, we spiritualize the entire body, and we also become a source where others can be spiritualized by watching what we do, or taking instructions from us, or advice from us, or just simply taking a book written by Srila Prabhupada. So these are all ways in which you get people more interested in Krishna consciousness. Shukadeva Goswami is appealing to the Lord for everything that he wants to do. This time he's being asked a question by Maharaj Pariksit. But in general, we should also take the directions by Shukadeva Goswami, not just what he says, but when and how he says also. When means he was asked a question by Maharaj Pariksit. What do we normally do? We go to a question, we get the answer. Try to answer it, which is all right. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead's pure devotees, they always praise the Supreme Lord first, especially when the questions are related to Krishna. We should ask as many questions related to Krishna as possible. The more we get to know about Krishna, the happier we will be. And from that happiness, we will finally get the supreme happiness, life in the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for coming and listening. And now this is the time to unmute yourself. If you have a question to ask, if you have a realization you want to share, if you have a take home that actually struck you more that you want to talk about, you can do all of that. You can just unmute yourself and do that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Damodar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila
All
Prabhupada.
glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to the devotees on the call. I like couple of points that you said. So the pastime about Shukdev Goswami, actually the parrot took her, and then Shivji and Parvati. That was a relation one. And then after that, you discuss these points very sequentially. I liked the way the flow that the basic understanding we need to get, or any living entity needs to get in his life, is that we are not the doers, we are just the puppets in the hands of the Lord.
Mm.
And whatever we are doing is basically approved and sanctioned by him. Like we cannot do anything otherwise. So the only way, uh, like the symptoms, or the only way to go ahead will be to surrender to him, to serve him. So the service will be like we have to. Right now we are not engaged all the time in the service, so we need to engage more and more in the service as we go ahead in our lives, uh, like that. And then how to serve the Lord, you basically told, like engage your senses in the service of the Lord. So that was very like the flow of the whole class was nice. I like the whole class actually. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very good comments. Just like we talked about it, but it's also nice to hear it repeated. And Lord Chaitanya, remember, as far as repetition goes, he had Ramananda Rai tell so many stories. He also had a conversation with Haridas Thakur. And in Ramananda Rai, you have him repeat and repeat and repeat the pastime of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the same pastime, he wanted to repeat it. And when he repeated, every time he repeated, he was getting more and more joy from it. So the more we hear about Krishna, the happier we become. The sages at Naimisharanya, they were there to perform sacrifice for the next 1,000 years for the benefit of humanity. But they also wanted to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Sutta Goswami came from the Ganga, after having heard Shukadeva Goswami preach to Maharaj Pariksit about Srimad Bhagavatam, they all wanted to know. In fact, they were clear to him in their request that if there's anything about what you speak, they should be related to Krishna. They wanted those topics related to Krishna. If anything else happened, now the sages were not, those in Naimisharanya were not at the bank of the Ganga. But they made it clear to Sri Goswami. First of all, they praised him that he is quite fit to relate what he had heard from Shukadeva Goswami, and that they couldn't wait to hear it. They were all excited about wanting to hear it. But they also said that please make all your comments connected to Krishna. This is not the only time that there's in many, many, many other places in the Shastra. You can tell something they will be willing to hear, but devotees like to hear, and this is for us to be aware of. They like to hear something that connects with Krishna. Any activity, but it connects with Krishna somehow, directly or indirectly. That's what is pleasing to the ear, because it helps the devotee to remember Krishna. And remembering is one of the 9 processes. And Prahlad Maharaj is expert at that. And look how much protection Krishna gave him just by remembering Krishna. His father, Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, could not kill him. And that's all he was doing, just remembering the Lord through all of those calamities. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your comment. Any other comment or question?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance to Prabhupada.
Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
I wanted to ask thank you for the pastime. It's always so nice to hear pastimes of Sukadev, how he got from the parrot into Srila Vyasadev's wife's womb.
Yeah.
But very, very sweet pastime. I have a question, and the question that popped in my mind is, when Lord Shiva approached Vyasadeva, asking where's the parrot, if you saw the parrot, and Srila Vyasadeva at the end said, well, he was listening to the Bhagavatam, so he has become pure. Why do you want to kill someone like that? So throwing a wrench in here, because sometimes, as what as Kali Yuga progresses, sometimes we just think that we are so perfect. So someone who has read the Bhagavatam can say, I'm pure. But by the behavior, because someone who, this is my understanding, and let me know if I'm wrong, but if someone is pure, then their service should be pure, their chanting should be pure, they should have pure relationships, everything that they do has to be pure. But if that's not the case, but they said, I've read the Bhagavatam and I'm pure. How to me, it's contradictory. So can we conclude as fallen conditioned souls, I read the Bhagavatam, so I'm pure, or what should our mood be?
When we hear the Bhagavatam, first of all, Bhagavatam does not have an end. That's the one thing. Neither does Bhagavad Gita. It's a circular book. That's the understanding we have to. In other words, you hear it over and over and over again. And every time you hear, and I'll get to the answer to that question. Every time you hear, there's more realization that comes. Even regular lecture, one lecture, you hear it over and over again, you get more realizations from it. Someone who says, I've read the Bhagavatam, I'm pure, if they say it exactly the way you said it, they have a problem with false ego. If they say it like that, if they say it, they have a problem with false ego. Pure devotees will never take credit like that for anything that they do, including even reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam purifies. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, you learn about humility also. And humble people do not give credit to themselves, just like in this text here that we read today. Shukadeva Goswami was looking first to appeal to the Lord to help him, literally by saying, decorate my statements so that it's pleasing and also understandable to Maharaj Pariksit. He also, as Sri Prabhupada explained his consciousness in the purport, that he was giving everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, reading Srimad Bhagavatam is also an act of service. So, Srimad Bhagavatam can purify, but even if it gets to a point where Srimad Bhagavatam, reading it and acting based on it makes a person pure, that person would know that because they are learning how to be humble, they will not praise themselves and say that they're pure. My spiritual master, Bhakti Maharaj, made one statement of humility. He was just repeating what Srila Prabhupada said. And some people had issues with it. It happened in 1998 in Alachua, in a lecture that they gave. And one of his god sisters took issue with him on it, and it was just very unfortunate because I don't think the Mataji really understood what Maharaj was trying to get to. The statement that Srila Prabhupada made was a statement of humility. In fact, he's made two statements. This one I'll talk about, and I'll talk about another one that he made. So Bhakti Maharaj said, Srila Prabhupada said, I am a conditioned soul, referring to himself, Srila Prabhupada. But my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he's a pure devotee. And that's why through him, I'm able to do what I do. Clearly, that was a statement of humility. But the Mataji just said, but we all know Prabhupada is pure. And then the Bhakti Maharaj cautioned and says, we have to read through what our spiritual masters say. At that time, he was comparing himself to his spiritual master, and a person that is that understands spirituality and spiritual life the way we've been taught as Vaishnavas will never put themselves at the same level of the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada does not put himself at the same level of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. So basically, reading through that statement was, it is through the help of his pure devotee, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, that I have been able to do what you guys see that's been done. Now, it's not just to praise Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It happens to be the truth. And there are two statements that support this truth. One, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj is the one that told Srila Prabhupada to come to the West and preach Krishna consciousness in the English language. It was from him, which he did. The second point was that Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur told Srila Prabhupada that when you get money, print books. So the preaching and the book printing, those were instructions from Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. And we all know book distribution has been one cornerstone for getting a lot of people to know about Krishna consciousness. It came from him. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, telling his disciple Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada obeying his spiritual master's instruction. So, let me call you later. Thank you. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj was the one that actually guided Srila Prabhupada for the things that happened to in ISKCON to be that way. As a matter of fact, even the whole GBC thing, the GBC set up, is also from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, according to what Srila Prabhupada's disciples say, that he actually gave the idea of the governing board commission. He had been put in the mind of Srila Prabhupada, and he used it. Before he left, he set up, the men to be the word handling ISKCON. So many things come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead's devotees. What you talked about is reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and would purity come? Yes, it will come if we apply what we read. Otherwise, we just gyanis then, and it's not helpful to us at all if we know or read and get to know but not apply. So that's also important. Vigyan, wisdom, application. That's also there. But a person that is actually read, even if they have improved towards purification, they will not admit that they are. They will not admit. If they admit, that means that is their false ego. Hare Krishna. Any final thoughts? We are at the hour, not top of the hour. If not, then I'd like to thank you very much for coming on to here and have a Krishna consciousness rest of your day. Hare Krishna. Panchakalpatarubhyasya kripasunive evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.